Hello, I'm Janie Munro, and I'm chairperson of ACFA, the Association of Certificated Field Archaeologists. And we are holders of the Certificate in Field Archaeology from Glasgow University's Department of Adult and Continuing Education. And this is a brief introduction to the certificate and how it led to the genesis of ACFA. In 1975, Glasgow University's Department of Extramural and Adult Education employed two archaeologists, Eddie Peltenberg in Argyll and Lionel Masters in Dumfries. The department wanted some more academically rigorous courses to offer students, and Lionel and Eddie thought they had just the thing. Lionel had acted as an unofficial consultant to the Forestry Commission in Galloway, and the involvement of some of his students from his classes led almost inevitably to the genesis of the certificate. He also recognised that archaeology was coming increasingly under threat from development, and that there was a need for surveys to record that which might otherwise be lost. The course took shape with a good academic grounding in the archaeology of the prehistory and history of Scotland, married with practical training in recognising and recording it. The 3-year course would comprise 20 evening meetings, 2 weekend field visits, and a residential fieldwork week each year for the bargain price of £20. Students would be expected to write 4 essays, sit a 3-hour exam with the final year assessment based on 25% essays, 25% exam, and 50% a portfolio of fieldwork. Classes were held until 2001 in these premises at 57 to 52 Oakfield Avenue, seen here, part of a fine terrace designed by Alexander Greek Thomson. And indeed, it was a beautiful building, but certificate classes were held in a basement room, the window of which can be seen to the left of the fire exit here. It was a room, though, filled with magic and littered with maps, drawings, and books. And most importantly, tutors. Students came from all over, travelling every week for classes from as far afield as Oban, Ayrshire, Edinburgh, Crean-Larriff, but mainly from the Glasgow area. Unlike other night classes, entry to the course would be by interview, mainly to test if you were made of the right stuff. There were 15 lucky members of the first class in 1976 out of 60 applicants. Apart from a 1-year overlap between the first and second course, the pattern of a 3-year rotating course was set, eventually ending in 2002 with the 9th cohort of graduates. Many past students have fond memories of the field trips and the sometimes eccentric accommodation and the famously terrible weather that inevitably prevailed. Sadly, we don't have any photographs of the terrible weather, probably because we were too busy fighting it. But this, a photograph from a subsequent survey that we did on the island of Raasay, gives a pretty good indication of the kind of weather we sometimes encountered. Helen Loney briefly took over the course on Lionel's retirement in 2000, with Alan Leslie running the restructured 2-year course from 2002 until its demise in 2016. And I've talked to Alan separately about his experience. Angela MacDonald from the then Glasgow University Centre for Open Studies was very supportive of us, and we ran, with her assistance, a few taster courses to encourage new students and members. And this here is a group of short course participants being introduced to tape offset in Pollock Park in the south of Glasgow. You can see someone's got a brolly, so there, it's raining. Generally always rains. ACFA, although we have embraced very enthusiastically more technical, modern technology, we have always used the tape offset method. This was influenced by Lionel Masters, who had a great dislike of the plane table and its bulkiness, weight, and difficulty of setting up, particularly in wet weather. Although, as you can see here, tape offset is not without its own burdens. Tape offset also has the advantage of being relatively cheap and easy to learn. And here are 3 of our members practicing or using their skills at tape offset on a recent survey in the island of Ling in the Inner Hebrides. Specialist subject lecturers are a list of stars: Ewan Mackey, Lawrence Kepi, Iron Hewson, Elizabeth Alcock, Eric Talbot, Colleen Beattie, Alec Morrison, and latterly Kenny Brophy, Olivia Lalong, Gavin McGregor, and Ollie O'Grady, among others. External examiners were equally distinguished. Professor George Joby, Kevin Green, Sir Paul Mellors, David Coombs, and Ian Ralston, among others. The work produced by students was often commented on as being well above first-year undergraduate level. And these are some comments from holders of the certificate. Stuart Mackey said when relocating to Glasgow from abroad, he wanted to learn about Scotland's history, and the course instilled in him a passion for archaeology. Kenneth Tomery enjoyed the range and depth of material, and Richard Anderson said it gave him a lifelong love of archaeology, and he felt a much better and more rounded person. Janet MacDonald was one of our members who subsequently went on to do a degree and a PhD. Dougie McInnes, who is one of our major survey directors, said that Lionel opened our eyes to the human impact on the landscape, and he remembers visiting Dace in Oakbank Avenue and seeing the Glenlochy team writing up the TRI report and plan, and this inspired him. And for myself, I remember walking back from the interview thinking, if I take this course, it will change my life. And it did. So how do we get from the course to ACFA? It was established in 1987 after 3 cohorts of students had been through, and a need was felt for some formal way of people managing to exercise their newly acquired skills and knowledge. Some people had been setting off to do surveys on their own, but the need was felt for some kind of formal structure and framework. And this was set alight originally by the Coal Board, who had come and asked for a survey to be carried out in Dalmellington in Ayrshire, previous to some open cast mining being carried out. And this is an early picture of members at an AGM, and you can see Lionel Masters there at the far left in his rather dashing white outfit. And this is the team that worked on the Dalmellington, our very first survey. And after having done that, the notion was, well, where next? Well, the museum's officer of Skye and Lochash District Council approached us and asked if we would carry out a survey of the east side of the Isle of Rassay, which we did. And subsequently, we carried out more work in Skye, but Rassay had captured ACFA's hearts, as had its sister island, Rona. And for the next nearly 15 years, we carried out annual week-long surveys and eventually surveying the entire island of Rassay. It has always been ACFA's policy to publish our work. And you can see here 3 of our occasional papers. To date, we have 145 occasional papers with some more in the pipeline. They are available in hard copy, but we are in the process of putting them up on our website. And so hopefully in the near future, you'll be able to access them, to read them on our website. We've also published 2 books. Eaglesome, the Farmlands and the Ori, seen here on the left, is a synthesis of the work carried out by Susan and Robin Hunter over nearly 20 years on the parish of Eaglesome. And on the right, Amy Gazen-Schwartz has written a synthesis of the archaeological surveys of Rassay, which I had just referred to there. We have 2 other books also on the go. One is a similar roundup of the work done in Glenlochy, and the other one is a summary of our work on the island of Tiree in the Hebrides. ACFA has made a huge contribution to Scottish archaeology, surveying everything from a Paisley washhouse to entire islands and glens. We've also worked with a number of community groups and community projects, a recent one, of course, being the Scotland's Rock Art Project, and we've provided volunteers for numerous excavations, despite excavations not being our corporate thing. Here we are getting to grips with some aerial kite photography. We encourage people who would like to join us to come along and have a go at surveying, and anybody who sticks it for long enough is welcome to join us as an associate member. And anyone who has an archaeology qualification similar to or superior to our certificate is very welcome to join us. This is just a very brief roundup of some of the work that we've done recently. This is part of Scotland's Rock Art project, one of two previously undiscovered or unrecorded cut marks in the Kilsyth Hills. This is another first for ACFA. This is an attested robbed chambered cairn in Halterburn Valley in the Scottish borders. And this is from the Eaglesham Parish surveys. This is the steading of Threeplands. And these are two lovely photographs of the high ground in Eaglesham with beautiful rig and furrow across the landscape of Ardagh and Threeplands. And finally, this is an interesting one. Came across this in Glenlochy, and we got very excited about the prospect of an upstanding 19th century shilling hut, only to be told later that it was actually built in the 1950s by a shepherd, Jock Stewart, known locally as Jock Stewart's Hut. But it was lovely the same to see that the traditions of building shelters like this had maintained. I hope you found this interesting. Our website is on the screen here just now, as is our email address. And we're also on Twitter. Please, we'd be delighted if you followed us. And if you follow us, we'll be very happy to follow you back. Also look out for further on in the festival, my interview with Alan Leslie. And Dougie McInnes is doing a talk on our recent work on Ben Heinisch in the island of Tiree in the Hebrides. And thank you for listening.